June 14th, 1944. The air was thick with the smell of wet earth and burning diesel. Mist clung stubbornly to the hedgerows of Normandy, turning each tree and bush into a shadowy silhouette, a potential hiding place for death. Sergeant Tom Boardman crouched behind a low rise, heart hammering, eyes scanning the undulating terrain for signs of movement. Then they appeared. At first, it was just a glint of metal, sunlight catching the polished 88mm barrel of a Panzer VI Tiger as it emerged from a narrow lane. Then the massive hull rolled forward, treads grinding over the cobblestones and churned mud. A monstrous mechanical predator. For a moment, Boardman and his men froze, disbelief mingling with fear. The Tiger wasn't just a tank. It was a fortress on tracks. Its armor gleamed ominously, thick plates angled to deflect shells that would shred Shermans with ease. Its gun, long and unerring, could obliterate a medium tank before the crew even had time to react. A sudden flash, Sherman, in the distance, erupted in fire. Twisted metal spiraling skyward. The men's stomachs sank. This wasn't a drill. This wasn't training. This was reality, and it was lethal. Boardman's voice barely carried above the whine of engines. That's a Tiger. The hedgerows that had once offered cover now became death traps. Every lane, every opening was a potential killing zone. The British advance stalled. Mortar teams whispered frantic coordinates to artillery. Infantrymen hugged the earth, eyes fixed on the horizon. The Tiger moved slowly but with terrifying inevitability. Every creak of its treads echoed like a harbinger. Its commander, Michael Wittmann, scanned the landscape, ready to turn every concealed position into a grave. For the men of the 7th Armored Division, these machines were monsters more myth than metal until today. Shots rang out from bazookas, bullets pinged off armor, and shells exploded in vain. The Tiger continued its inexorable march. Each explosion sent dirt and debris flying, the ground quaking under the weight of 57 tons of steel. Boardman could almost feel the concussion in his chest, the echo rattling through his bones. And then the Tiger paused, silhouette framed against the morning mist, guns slowly pivoting. Men knew any misstep, any twitch would be their last. Fear turned to frantic planning. How do you stop something that seems unstoppable? How do you fight a machine built to annihilate anything in its path? And in that moment, the hedgerows whispered back, filled with the cries of men learning that bravery alone might not be enough. The British troops were about to discover the true terror of the Tiger. June 15th, 1944, dawn crept over the Normandy bocage, mist curling between sunken lanes and hedgerows like smoke from a hidden furnace. Sergeant Tom Boardman led his Sherman squad through a narrow lane, every sense taut, nerves buzzing with the tension of the previous day's horrors. The memory of the Tiger's 88mm gun, firing with impunity, haunted them like a living shadow. Suddenly a flash of steel. A Tiger emerged from a fold in the hedgerow, its turret sweeping with methodical precision. Boardman's stomach lurched. The first Sherman fired. The round bounced harmlessly off the Tiger's sloped frontal armor. Another again, nothing. Panic crept into the men's eyes. They realized their weapons were almost useless. The Tiger fired back. The first Sherman exploded in a roar of fire and shrapnel. Wood and earth shattered around them as the blast threw debris across the lane. Men screamed. Others ducked instinctively, hearts hammering as if trying to outrun fate. Boardman's mind raced. Tactics, movement, any way to survive, he had to think faster than the machine before him. Fall back, he shouted, trying to rally the surviving crew. Use the hedgerows. Spread out. The Shermans splintered into cover, rolling between broken trees and shattered fences. Each tank was now a fragile target. Every step, a gamble against death. The Tiger pressed forward, relentless, methodical. Each shot that rang out from its 88mm gun was a sentence, precise, lethal, and terrifyingly quick. And yet, the Tiger was not invincible. British infantry, armed with bazookas and pikes, began to engage, targeting the rear and sides where the armor was thinner. Shells whistled past, some finding purchase, some failing against steel that seemed to laugh at small arms. But each successful hit brought hope, and hope turned into desperate courage. Meanwhile, above, Allied aircraft circled, waiting for the call. Boardman raised the radio, voice tense, requesting air support. Coordinates Tiger tank, grid 7, H-repeat 7-8, distant drone of engines. Dive bombers sliced the sky like knives, releasing payloads that tore into earth and metal. Smoke and dust erupted around the Tiger, but it pressed forward. The crew inside barked orders, shields of fear and adrenaline, keeping the behemoth alive amidst chaos. Boardman watched as one Sherman was torn apart, flames licking the hedgerow. Hay-zone tanks' tracks groaned, shifting over churned mud and splintered timber. Hay felt every vibration, every tremor, as if the Tiger could sense his fear. The battle turned into a deadly chess match, the hedgerows dictating movement, hiding death, and revealing it without warning. Every advance was a gamble. Every pause, a potential execution. The British soldiers realized that raw firepower alone could not counter the Tiger. They needed cunning, teamwork, and relentless determination. And then a report crackled over the radio. Villers-Bocage. Wittmann's Tiger column moving east, no survivors reported yet. Boardman's stomach sank. The legendary Michael Wittmann was already shaping the battlefield, leaving a trail of destruction and disbelief in his wake. The Tiger's reign of terror was far from over. The men gritted their teeth, knowing one undeniable truth. They would have to fight smarter, move faster, and strike where the Tiger was vulnerable. Die trying. The hedgerows had become death traps, but survival demanded more than fear, it demanded ingenuity. June 13, 1944. Before the chaos, Villers-Bocage had been just another sleepy town in Normandy. Cobbled streets and narrow lanes weaving between half-timber birdhouses. But that morning, it became the stage for one of the most feared tank commanders in history, Michael Wittmann. From the shadows, his Tiger emerged, gleaming black and menacing, engine growling like a beast waking from slumber. Wittmann had learned the terrain, memorized every lane and hedgerow, every blind corner that could conceal death. In his hands, the Tiger was not just a weapon, it was an extension of his will, a predator stalking through a pastoral nightmare. British forces, including Tom Boardman's squad, advanced cautiously. They had heard the stories. A single Tiger moving through Villers-Bocage could devastate an entire battalion. Yet nothing could prepare them for the reality. The first Sherman in the lane fired a round. Nothing. The Tiger returned fire. Explosion was instantaneous. A deafening roar that splintered the cobblestones, sent bricks and wood flying, and threw men into the air. Boardman ducked, his helmet barely shielding him from the concussive blast. Wittmann's skill was terrifying. He moved with fluid precision, turret swiveling, barrel tracking every target. Each shot was calculated, every movement anticipated. He picked his targets with surgical accuracy, destroying tanks before crews could react. Allied soldiers stared in disbelief as the once mythical Tiger became a reality of death. Yet amid the carnage, cracks began to appear in the legend. Bazookas found tracks, airstrikes disrupted the advance. British infantry used the twisted hedgerows for cover, moving stealthily, aiming at the rear of the Tiger where armor was weakest. The Tiger was a monster, but it was not invincible. Boardman gritted his teeth, directing fire, coordinating with fellow tanks and infantry. One Sherman managed to land a hit on the Tiger's side armor, sparks flying, metal groaning. Wittmann's Tiger faltered slightly enough to reveal that even the most fearsome weapon had vulnerabilities. The hedgerows, once death traps, became battlegrounds of cunning. British forces realized they couldn't outgun the Tiger, they had to outthink it. Smoke screens, flanking maneuvers, and coordinated attacks became their only hope. Every second of survival was a victory in itself. For Wittmann, the battlefield was still his domain, but now every action had to be met with counter-strategies. The terror he wielded had met resistance, the awe had shifted to tension. The balance was delicate, the line between fear and defeat thinner than a tank shell's trajectory. By the evening, the streets of Villers-Bocage lay in ruin. Fires burned in the shadows of toppled buildings. Twisted tanks littered the lanes, and the cries of men echoed in the smoke. Wittmann withdrew, his Tiger battered but alive, leaving a battlefield forever marked by his rampage, but also revealing the first glimmers of hope for the British. For Boardman and his men, disbelief turned to resolve. The Tiger was deadly but not unbeatable. The next encounter would demand courage, coordination, and the exploitation of every weakness they could find. The hedgerows had been conquered by fear, but the fight for survival and for victory had only just begun. June 16, 1944, the morning fog clung to Normandy like a shroud, muffling the distant roar of engines and artillery. Sergeant Tom Boardman huddled with his crew behind a hedgerow, eyes fixed on the twisted remnants of Shermans and shattered panzer tracks scattered across the fields. Yesterday had been a nightmare. Today demanded learning from it. The British knew the Tiger's strengths: impenetrable frontal armor, deadly 88mm gun, and Wittmann's masterful skill. But every machine has a flaw. Every human has a limit. Today, they would exploit them. Boardman's squad moved carefully, crawling through the hedgerows, eyes scanning every rise and fall in the terrain. The narrow lanes, which had previously been death traps, were now choke points. Bazookas and pikes were positioned at the corners, ready to strike where the Tiger was weakest, its side and rear. Engineers planted explosives along probable paths, and infantry coordinated smoke screens to conceal movements. Above, Allied aircraft patrolled the skies, ready to call down airstrikes on any Tiger spotted in the open. The once surprising terror of Normandy's armored beasts was now being met with calculated determination. Suddenly, a Tiger appeared over a ridge, turrets swiveling, gun tracking the British advance. The crew froze for a heartbeat. Fear still lingered, but then training and preparation took over. Smoke screens erupted, obscuring the Tiger's vision. Bazooka teams moved to flank positions, shells ready to exploit the vulnerable rear. Boardman's voice cut through the tension. Explosions rocked the lane. Sparks flew as armor was pierced. The Tiger faltered, treads damaged, mobility compromised. Wittmann barked orders, but the British advance pressed, relentless and coordinated. For every Tiger that struck fear into the heart of the Allies, there was now a countermeasure: teamwork, ingenuity, and courage under fire. Bazookas, airstrikes, and tactical positioning began to turn the tide, proving that even the most feared machine could be beaten with strategy. Boardman moved his Sherman forward, heart racing. The hedgerows, once tombs, were now staging grounds for counterattack. Every successful strike against a Tiger boosted morale. Every setback taught lessons, sharpened instincts, and built determination. The battle for Normandy was far from over, but the myth of invincibility surrounding the Tiger had begun to crack. Allied soldiers learned to respect the machine, but also to master it, to turn terror into tactical advantage. And as the sun climbed higher, lighting up smoke and shattered steel, one truth became clear: the Tiger could command fear, but it could not halt the Allied tide, moving inexorably toward Paris. The British had learned the monsters of Normandy could be fought, and the next clash would prove whether courage, skill, and strategy could finally tip the scales. June 17, 1944. The Bocage country was a battlefield of smoke, fire, and shattered steel. Every hedgerow seemed alive, whispering tales of horror and heroism. Sergeant Tom Boardman moved cautiously, chest tight, eyes scanning every shadow. The Tigers were still out, their monstrous silhouettes moving with lethal precision. But the Allies were no longer naive. Fear had been replaced by resolve and cunning. Ahead, a Tiger rumbled into view, treads grinding mud, its turret scanning for targets. Boardman raised his binoculars. The machine was massive, but this time, they knew how to fight it. Infantry teams armed with pikes were ready in concealed positions. Sherman tanks flanked the lanes, and artillery waited on command. Every move was coordinated, every action calculated. The Tiger fired, but the Allied response was swift. Bazooka teams struck the side armor, rounds finding gaps in the Tiger's defenses. Engineers detonated hidden charges, tossing the massive tank off balance. Air support swooped in, strafing and bombing with surgical precision. Boardman shouted over the roar of engines and explosions, "Keep moving, aim for the tracks, don't stop." The Tiger faltered under the relentless assault. Wittmann, legendary as he was, realized that the battlefield had changed. The hedgerows that once favored the German tanks were now allies to the British, providing cover, concealment, and tactical advantage. The machine that had instilled terror now faced a coordinated, disciplined counterstrike. One by one, Tigers were disabled or destroyed. Crews abandoned their hulks, running through mud and debris to survive. The legend of invincibility began to crumble, replaced by the hard reality that even monsters could bleed. By nightfall, Villers-Bocage and surrounding hedgerows lay in ruin. Fires burned among twisted metal, echoes of gunfire and explosions lingering in the smoky air. Boardman and his men sat among the wreckage, exhausted, bruised, but alive. They had faced the Tiger and survived. The victory was more than tactical. It was psychological. The fear that had once frozen British soldiers now fueled determination. The Tiger, while still powerful, had been beaten by strategy, courage, and adaptation. Allies had learned the hard truth. Monsters could be conquered if men were willing to think, fight, and endure. As Boardman looked across the battlefield, he saw the battered Tiger holes, a testament to both the terror they had caused and the triumph that had overcome it. Normandy's hedgerows had tested men to the limit, but now they were no longer death traps. They were proving grounds for bravery and ingenuity. The DI pushed toward, Paris continued, unstoppable. And though the Tigers had commanded respect, their reign of fear had ended. The Allies were learning, adapting, and no machine, no matter how monstrous, could stop their advance. For the soldiers of the 7th Armored Division, and for all who fought in Normandy, the lesson was clear. Courage, cunning, the relentless determination could turn even the most terrifying weapons into shattered legends.